Welcome to a We Haven't Done This in a While edition. Billy and Sam review races / race stories because the race that we picked for this one is so small they only had one t-shirt.
Sam forgot his t-shirt. So we are no longer at the race. Now we're at another race and filming for this previous race. I remembered to bring the t-shirt and Sam remembered to bring the medal, so we should be good.
Between the two of us, we make one racer. It's fine. So, this is I'm going to call it the Goose Pond.
It is the Goose Pond half Ironman.
Also the Frantic Frog Sprint, if anybody.
Oh, they use Ironman in there. I can't believe.
Woo! We're going to go tell Ironman.
Somebody's fixing to get a letter.
So, this is obviously a local race. This is in Scottsboro, Alabama. And in case you don't know where Scottsboro, Alabama is, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Alright, we don't know where it is either. we drove through what's the town like started with an F Fort Payne. We drove through Fort Payne, Alabama, which is where the music group Alabama is from, and there's a museum there
that somebody didn't have time to stop for.
So if you don't know where Fort Payne, Alabama is, Scottsboro is
like
even further out.
And we've just lost any fan we had in northern Alabama, so we apologize.
We're not complaining about it. It's just in the middle of nowhere.
So I flew to Atlanta, and then Billy picked me up, and then we rode out there. I don't think there was anything adventurous about the ride. Other than
3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that. This is key.
Yeah.
3.5 hours.
On the way out.
Right.
On the way there.
Right. We had to remember how long it took us to get there because on the way back, Sam had to catch a flight.
So, I feel like I should back up further. So in March of this year, I was on a surfing simulator and decided that would be appropriate training for what we were trying to go for this year. And as it turns out, you can get hurt on those things. So on a surf simulator in Mexico, I got a high ankle sprain. So I lost a solid 9 weeks of good training. So I got to start running about a week before this race.
I didn't train at all anyway. I didn't get hurt. It wasn't. I just didn't want to.
It's making that up. So I feel like I wanted a backstory so we could share aches and pains. So I went into the doctor, and Brock Bowers played Georgia football. He's now playing for the Raiders. Also had a high ankle sprain. He was back in 3 weeks with a surgery. So I go in and, Doc, I need the surgery. And he said, no, you don't. And it was, he didn't fully appreciate my joke. So didn't get surgery, just rehabbed. But came into the race wholly underprepared. So I feel like that's going to affect our rating of this race because neither one of us was trained up for it. Mine, because I made a dumb mistake, and yours because
I didn't want to.
You just enjoy training.
I mean, to tell you about this, I mean, this is literally, I went to Sam's son's birthday party, 2 weeks before this race? Maybe the week before.
It was the week before.
All right, the week before. We did a 30-ish mile bike ride. Yeah. That's the longest workout I've done since the last race we did, whenever it was, Indiana, back in 2023, in October or whenever it was. I don't know.
If we both look fat to you, there's good reason.
Yeah. So, I have been working out at the dinner table, for sure.
Yeah, lifting 6-ounce curls. So, back to the race. The Goose Pond is not a big race. It is a local race, and it is a tiny local race. There were 150 people we decided
total sprint too,
including the sprint. Sorry, and
50-ish.
The numbers that we were told by another racer, so take that with a grain of salt, was that 60 people signed up for the half, and 40 some odd competed. So. Very small race. It's the weekend after Chattanooga. Was this year the weekend after Chattanooga? That felt like a mistake because this was very close to the Tennessee border, and so all of the draw that Ironman has, and people weren't feeling like racing 2 weekends in a row, which feels weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they could move this race back like 4 weeks, and it can be a training ride or whatever, a practice race, and they probably do a lot better. I don't know. Maybe this was the only weekend they could get the venue out.
So, small grass transition.
It's 150 people, including the sprint. I mean, you could put that anywhere.
I love.
There was plenty of parking for 150 people. The check-in was fine. I mean, it was on the computer, or they had tablets or whatever to check you in. Did not ask for an ID.
No, they never did. No.
I mean, anybody who's dumb enough to show up and have a name that's on their list, they're like, all right, well, you can go.
Yeah.
I had brought my USA Triathlon card because I thought they were probably going to ask for that. Didn't ask for that either.
So, very relaxed race. There was families in the transition while we were getting ready in the morning, and then when we were checking out after the race, there were still other people in the transition. So, I like it.
It's totally different atmosphere than Ironman.
Yeah.
It's not the same pressure, not the go, not the millions of people. I mean, it's a race, but it's a great way to get a good long workout.
Yes. Yeah. I mean that's really what this felt like to me. Was less of a race and more of competing with friends, just having a good time with a medal at the end.
For some people,
if you're lucky. So the swim it's a lake swim, 2 loops. And we watched the guy the day before with the boat, and they were out measuring that joker, making sure that it was right. So
yeah,
I was
with GPS on their phone, and they were calling out their numbers. They had 2 GPSs, and they had to match or whatever. So yeah, they definitely got that right.
So I really appreciate that. You started in water, and then
it was a mass start. There were 3 waves.
Yeah, there were 3 waves with 40 people. So mass start is probably not the right word, but yes.
I mean, our group was probably the largest. There were 20 people probably that started.
What was it? 50 something under?
I don't know.
Okay.
It must have been 54 and under because I was swimming with you. I didn't make the cut for the older guys.
So it looked. Yeah, I think he's right. It was 54 and under. And then they had, I think most of the women, and then the 54 and up, maybe. I don't know who I got passed by first, but I got passed by both the other groups.
No, I got passed before the first movie. that was my goal in the swim. I was like, all right, because they're starting 3 minutes behind you. I don't want anybody to catch me 3 minutes before the first turn buoy. I didn't get caught before the first sighting buoy, but the first turn buoy got caught.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like I don't know what to call it. It's not a triangle because it had a flat part at the top, but it's kind of like a wedge out. So you're long side, and then short at the dog came
trapezoid, I guess. But meant to be somewhat similar to a square. And then on the second loop, you just came straight in as opposed to turning to go. So it was well thought out. It was good. The lake. The day before had a bunch of grass in it, and they chopped all that up and scraped it out of the way. This you got any swim stories that you want to tell?
Nah, nothing exciting.
I got swim stories.
Oh,
it's so just a couple of stories. I haven't been training. I have swam a few times.
Okay.
Because
like in the bathtub or
no, in the pool. Let's face it, everyone that has died at one of our races has died in the swim.
True.
There's nobody's died, so if you can make it through the swim, then you're probably going to live through the rest of it. So I felt like I needed to probably swim a few times, and so I did. Not really.
Those deaths are all cardiac events, by the way. Just I feel like we should note that. All right, go on. Billy's murdered a bunch of people at races. It's fine. It's great.
So anyway, I'm not fast, and it was not wetsuit legal. It was pretty warm. So you're going to be slow on the wetsuit, not being on wetsuit legal, but I didn't know how slow I was going to be. And so I count my breaths to kind of know how fast I'm going to go. And the first set of breaths, I was like, oh, wow, you started way too slow. I bet this next set of breaths you'll be fine. The next set of breaths was even worse. And I'm like, what in the world? Where am I going? Third set of breaths, even worse. I'm like, all right, I'm quitting counting. So I get in, and my normal time is when we were doing all the races or whatever, 43 minutes or so for a lake swim with a wetsuit. So you got to add 10% or so for not having a wetsuit. Well, this one was 58 minutes. That's a 5 and an 8. That's 58 minutes.
You made the cutoff.
I did make the cutoff. I did. I looked at that and I was like, oh, somebody's out of shape. But it didn't matter. I mean, when I was coming in, they had started the sprint people after us, and I was like, oh, hopefully I can get through with my swim before the sprint people started. I did not, and they were coming around the curve at the same time that I was coming down towards the finish. And there was this guy in the sprint doing a backstroke, which, I mean, you always get annoyed when people do a backstroke, but this guy was doing the pull out, the full, I'm going this way, and so I'm kind of going to the right to get around him. Well, he's going to the right too. Finally, I just had to stop and let him go all the way through, and then turn back and go straight because he was not going in the right direction. It was a sprint. I mean, he was going 400 yards. I mean, anyway, that was my swim stories.
So I want to make sure that I understand. You're complaining that he didn't train after you didn't train.
I didn't backstroke one time, not one time. And I felt really good coming out of the swim. I was like, ooh, I got a lot of energy.
So, didn't overdo it on the swim. I would like to note that a race with 150 people max was able to put a carpet from the swim exit all the way to transition. Iron Man. So, yeah, because they obviously care about our videos and are very likely to watch this. But
I mean, all those changes that our men made has been because of us, right?
Yeah. Right. The increasing in revenue, really increasing in fees, I'm pretty sure. So get on the bike.
It's an out and back. I mean, it's literally an out, turn around, come back.
Do we have a banana score on the swim? I feel like, sorry, before we do that, do we have any?
I don't even know. I can't score. I don't even know what our system is.
We used to have a 7 banana score, so there was out of a possible 7 bananas.
I mean, no wetsuit, which he couldn't have this the weather.
Not his fault.
It's a lake, which I hate the lakes anyway. I don't know. A 4 banana score? I mean, it wasn't that bad. I don't want to say it's bad, but it wasn't like some kind of swim that I'd want to go back for.
I'm with you. I'd agree with that.
I mean, there wasn't anything bad.
There wasn't anything wrong with it. There wasn't anything great about it either. So, yeah.
All right.
It's a lake swim. So you get out on the bike. There was this beautiful sign. Did you see the nice sign? Like our road improvements paid for by pennies or whatever, taxes, and you got on this gorgeous 5-mile stretch of perfectly paved asphalt. Out of 56, well, I guess 10 out of 56 miles was really, really nice. You're out in farm country.
And this was not the worst roads we've ever been on, but
we're south of the Mason-Dixon line. I have a different standard.
It wasn't scenic. The complaint that I have, and it's a pretty big complaint, there was one aid station. On the entire bike ride, there was one. And it wasn't like one at mile 20 where then you hit it again at mile 40 or whatever. It was at mile 25.
Yeah.
And you went up and did the turnaround and came back and hit it at mile 29. I mean, so there was just one.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't a big deal for us. We still do our nutrition on our bikes. I never have to stop for an aid station. I mean, maybe I would grab water to pour over it if it was super hot. It was kind of hot that day, but I wasn't. I didn't need that. It's just, I mean, you got to do better than that. That was poor planning.
There were other places they could have put those volunteers that yes, we could have hit the water twice and it would have been more exciting. I will compliment the race on their volunteers. Their volunteers for the bike was a 7 banana score because that was as many volunteers as I've had for an Ironman. So obviously not for the aid stations, but at every single intersection there was somebody there, and there was somebody there the entire time. Because we didn't train, so I know how long the course takes. So yeah, we were not in the front of the pack, and they were there. So kudos to that. The race director did a phenomenal job of recruiting people and getting them out and keeping them there. That's the nicest thing I have to say.
It took me forever to catch you. Forever. I mean, you came. What was your swim time?
46 minutes. Oh, 43 minutes.
There was no way.
It was incredible.
You were 15 minutes ahead of me? There's no way. There's no way it was 43 minutes.
We're going to go back and check.
We're going to check this out. That's right. Whatever, I caught you.
You did on the bike. So, remember, foot injury, still beat him on the swim. You caught me, and I couldn't catch you back on the bike, man. I was trying. There is no timing equipment on the race. There's no timing equipment outside of transition. So there was no like turnaround timing chip. There was no motorcycle looking for people drafting. So that's why I think of this.
There was a truck, I think.
Yeah, but he was following the leader, so.
Yeah, but I think there's another truck I know there's a truck that stopped to help somebody.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if he was doing.
Supposed to be checking people out.
I
didn't see anybody, but there was no drafting. There were 40 people. There was not enough people to draft, but.
There were long stretches where I was by myself. Long stretches.
It is totally unrelated to a 58-minute swim, but. So, I would really, I wanted to draft people, and I tried, and I couldn't. So really, I just couldn't keep up. But yeah, there was just not enough people for that to be a factor. But it was very interesting to see that I didn't see any drafting. Doesn't mean that there wasn't, but there's not a championship. There's not really any kudos for cheating. So the only person you were really cheating was yourself.
Yeah.
So that felt okay to me. I had 56 miles to think that over. So, do you have a score on the bike? You got any stories for the bike?
I mean, I'm going to give it a 4, too. I mean, I should probably give it like a 3.5. I mean, you can't do one aid station. I mean, the roads were fine. I mean, they weren't good. They weren't the worst roads that we've ever been on. But I didn't get off of that bike going, I hate this bike course. I wish I would never do it again.
Fair.
Kind of deal. But there were certainly things in control of the race director that they should have done, and one of those things was more aid stations.
Yeah. I think we go over. There was 2 sets of railroad tracks that we hit twice, so 4. You went over railroad tracks 4 times. Yeah. Is that right? So yeah, I'm with him. I'm a 3 banana on this. I think it could have been better. The scenery was actually pretty when you looked around, but
it's an independent race. It's super cheap. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? But know that you're getting what you pay for.
Sorry. So we should go ahead and go over cost, and that's 7 banana cost on a half iron distance. I think it was $135 when I signed up. So
I signed up late, so it was more, but
I've done sprints that were more expensive than that. So it really, really is a very affordable race, and so if you're looking to challenge yourself, probably not your thing. But if you're looking for a well-supported ride, that's a great value for a practice race.
You can practice your transition, practice the turns, practice getting the bottles from the aid station. I mean, it is a great race for them. All right, run.
So the run. I don't have a lot of great things to say about the run.
You have some notes.
I have some notes. So he said it before we started the swim that I think he called it a 3-loop run. I don't know how to describe this in any sort of. It was not a 3-loop run, but you started at transition. I'd call it a balloon. You come up the string, you do the balloon. It was twice, but then there was a tail to the balloon. Or another extra little piece.
Almost like it was either a double balloon or a butterfly, where you came at the tail, you went around this loop, then you went and did this loop, and then you came and did this loop, and then you came and did this loop, and then I think you were supposed to do this loop a 3rd time, which is where the 3 came in, and then go back down the string. Was not well marked.
No.
I think that they just had the sign that said where you turn for Loop 3. I think it was just in the wrong place.
I could believe that. There were, I'm going to call it 3 aid stations.
Yeah, there are plenty of aid stations on the run.
On the run. The first one I thought was dumb. They had, like, one of the aid stations was on the string, and so you only passed it that first time going out. Seems like you could have set up the aid station and extra aid station at transition, coming out of transition, and then caught it when you were starting your balloon run.
I mean, it was in a shady area. It only had one person working it. I don't know. And they had plenty of aid stations.
They did. They had plenty of aid stations. The aid stations ran out of ice.
It was hot.
And it was hot. Now, we were not early, so you take everything I say with a grain of salt, and, my foot, I was unhappy. But this race, for part of the balloon, you went just out in the sun forever, and then down this giant hill, basically to the bottom, and then you turn around and go back up the hill. And then what's worse is, you initially when I'm doing it, I'm like, man, I got to do this two more times.
Right.
Somewhere I'm measuring my mileage, and I'm like, I'm not doing that 2 more times. I refuse to do more than 13 miles. So the way that was set up was mixed up. Billy was nice enough to stay with me for a long time, but we'll go back to sorry. Thoughts on the run?
Was not well marked.
No.
I mean, I got mixed up a bunch of times.
So they've done this race in this location several times, but they've changed the run, and so there are spray painted arrows saying go this way, and he's like, ignore those, pay attention to these arrows. And you're not going to believe this, they make black spray paint. You could have just black spray painted over the old arrows, but
yeah, it was kind of weird. I mean, you go to this campground, which was actually pretty cool because it's Memorial Day weekend, and there's tons of campers, and so they're all looking at you like, hey, how far are you running today? Further than you, I can guarantee you that. But that was kind of fun. But you go to this loop, and it splits. There's a Y. Actually, there's 5 roads. One road you figure out pretty quick that it's a boat ramp, so you know you're not going there. One road goes back to where you came from, so you're thinking, that's probably not where we're supposed to go. And then one kind of splits, and you're like, all right. So I see somebody running down the split, and I'm like, which way do we go? And he was like, I don't think it matters because it was just a loop. And that was true. It didn't matter once you got on that loop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. You ended up at the same point.
Yeah.
But still, an arrow that kind of pointed, hey, you go this way. There were no mile markers. There were no, anyway, it was, so I got confused there. And then what really made me mad, I mean, so I can do math. And so I was going to make my 13.1, and I was going to make it I mean, there were no timing chips or anything.
Yeah.
You could have gone wherever you wanted.
Sorry, you had a timing chip, but there was
no max that you went over.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. I mean, I know my watch, and hopefully my watch was correct. I kind of figured out in my head what the math was to be able to get 13.1. Well, on the way back, there was another place where there were orange arrows pointing one way, and there was a sign that said road closed except for racers, or road closed for the racing, or something like that. I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to go that way. No, you weren't supposed to go that way. You're supposed to go the other way. So I ended up doing, 13.3 or something. I mean, whatever it wasn't that bad. It was just kind of like, this is not a great, and people were complaining to the race director after the race, and he was like, well, we are going to change that next year, so, it's going to be different next year.
Hopefully, by the time you're watching this video, they have improved it. So, I'm going to go ahead and throw a 2 banana score out there on the run. I in no way enjoyed it. Now, I feel like there should be a caveat that says, I'm out of shape, and so running in the heat uphill is not great if you're in shape, and it's really terrible. So I don't know how much of that affects my banana score, but I'm sticking by my 2. You have
I mean, it has to be below average, right? I mean, they put you out on that 4-lane highway in the middle of the sun, was just beating on you. I mean, he's probably doing what he's allowed to do. right? I mean, he only had so much. I mean, even on that 4-lane highway, you get to a stop sign and it doesn't say which way to go. And I was by myself. There was nobody.
There were cones both ways.
There were cones both ways. And finally, way off in the distance, which was really, I mean, literally probably a third of a mile or more away, I saw somebody and I'm like, well, I'm going to run down this way because they're running. So, it was just kind of weird how that worked.
4. There was that, the one under the shade tree. There was another aid station that I forgot about. There were 3 on the butterfly, and then 1 on the string. Yeah. There we go. So you still don't get any extra points for that, but it.
I mean,
we did not feel like we were lacking for one. Yeah, so that was at least really nice.
The aid stations were okay. I mean, that was the best thing about the run. And there were people working them, and that one out there on the highway. I mean, the Boy Scouts were out there. They were giving you
they were really nice.
I mean, that was the best one, but you didn't want to see it more than twice. Because
it was brutal.
It was pretty brutal.
So this is the part of the story where we talk about the flight. So we're running, and we're going slow. I'm going slow. Billy's kind enough to stay with me. Man, it's going to be kind of close for that flight, and I'm pretty sure I scheduled one of the last flights back. I don't know that there was another flight back tonight. How you feeling? Billy goes, pretty good. Great. I'm going to need you to go ahead and hurry up and take apart my bike.
So that really was the plan. Hey, you go on ahead and you can take apart my bike. I mean, because that might save 20 minutes, and the 20 minutes might be the difference between making the flight and not making the flight. So you're saying I'm feeling pretty good. I did this race in 7 hours. I mean, our average race when we were racing was in 6. I mean, 6-ish.
Yeah.
That's enough
6
stuff.
plus.
I mean, we did some below 6 and some a little bit above 6. So I mean, it was 6-ish. This is an hour longer, so I might have been feeling better than you, but I'm not sure that I was feeling good. But the whole thing
motored on off. I was gone.
They had started the race late for some reason. I don't know why they started it late.
The policeman, I don't know, slept in or something.
Oh, that's right. The police weren't out on the course. That's what it was. Yeah. So it started like 35 or 40 minutes late. Well, that's a long time when you're trying to hit a flight in Atlanta. And so. Long story short, I finished before Sam. I run through the finish line, and I mean, there's nobody there. Right? So, nobody there. I still had some liquids at my bike, so I went over to my bike to hydrate a little bit. Came back later. They had coolers out. They were closed, and you could get waters and stuff out of the coolers. And they had somebody that was giving out the pizza. But apparently, they had a box of medals
next to the cooler. I don't know how you missed this. They're subtle medals because they're bright orange, so they might have been difficult to see, really.
I never saw the medal, so I never got one. I never got a medal.
And he realizes this like 20 minutes into the car ride back to the airport, and he's going, I mean, like we could turn around to get the medal.
No, we were not turning around to get a medal. I mean, that's actually an okay medal.
It's nice,
to end up in a race.
So and it says half Ironman on it. I'm going to enjoy that for a while. So yeah, it has both the sprint and so it's fine. I mean, it's nice.
Oh, so the sprint people got the same one?
Yes.
So it was the same medal that the sprint people got in the half Ironman. I mean, we usually take off points for that. But
I don't. We haven't been generous to this race to start with. I wasn't going to start now.
They did have pizza. It was cold by the time we got it, but it was
they had
pizza.
A ton of pizza.
And they let us take some to go. I mean, we were in a hurry.
So they had 2 porta potties here, which was ironically plenty. They had a pool and some facilities, but we were not invited to use any of those. There wasn't any cleaning up after. So I apologize to whoever rode next to me on the plane.
Yeah, but you changed clothes.
I changed clothes. So
where did you go to change clothes?
The guy let me in to the pool area to change clothes.
Okay.
So yes, you could do that, and it was private enough. Accommodations were inexpensive.
I mean, so for me, you'd ask if you do this race again, and I mean, the answer is really no. There's no reason for me to do it again. But if you wanted to get out of town and do a buddy ride or whatever, I mean, that's almost what this felt like, right? Like, hey, let's get a group of people together and we'll go do this thing. You had timing, you had rules, you had the swim. I mean, the swim's hard to set up. I call it
reasonable support. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it would be a great practice race for Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So that's why I would do it. I wouldn't do it because it's a race. I do it again because I'm trying to practice up for a good time for Chattanooga, and there's some things I need to work on. This is a way that you can work on that. It's cheap enough to where that's okay, right? That you can spend the money to be able to do that. So, other than that, I mean, as a race, there's no reason for me to do it again.
This might be the lowest score we've got anybody. So you got an overall score, or?
No, I did not hate this race. I hated Mountain Man.
Oh man.
So I'm not recommending that people not do the race.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's a fine race. You just got to know what it's for, and what it's for is a practice for some other race.
Else. So,
or if you're trying to check off all 50 states, this is the one in Alabama you can get.
Exactly right. If you're trying to get all 50 states in, you're probably going to want to do this race before it gets canceled. Yeah. Man, I got to give this like a maybe 2.5 banana. There's no reason. We've done it. I'm unlikely to ever do it again, short of somebody saying, "Hey, I really, really, really want to do this with you." I don't know. Any other parting thoughts?
Made it to the airport on time.
Sure did.
It was actually faster to get there. We think.
Yeah, it's like 2:45 on the way.
Yeah. So worked out. So you could have had a shower, man.
I mean, I should have had a shower at the airport. That's really what I did wrong there. But the pre-check line was still open, even though
they said it closed at 7.
But yeah, the line to check in was insanely long. It wasn't that bad when I got there, but by the time that I left, it was like had run out of queue and was out in the hallway and wrapped around. So lots of people having travel problems, I guess. It was Memorial Day weekend and I'm flying, so I knew what I was getting into. So stay tuned for our next race. This is like a preview, really, where we're going to do Des Moines for
Are you showing the shirt or are you showing your belly as the preview? The preview is my belly.
I've actually cut this so that you can't actually see the bottom of my gut. It's fantastic. But no, it's the shirt because we're going to do Des Moines for the first time, for the second time.
First and a half time.
We've never completed the race, so stay tuned. We'll see if there's any changes to the swim. That's the only thing we know about. All right, thanks so much for watching.